I've had this little fuzzball in my hair all day. Whatever. We have power. Yay! The first picture I took for the thumbnail was not super enthusiastic, so I am indeed pleased that we have power again. So anyway, the power went out on, what was it, Saturday night? Oh, for God's sake, really, dude? So the power went out on Saturday night, and we lost power for just about a whole day. And after we got power back, it took some time to get everything back up and running correctly, which was a minor frustration. But hopefully we can get back into the swing of things. So I am back in the saddle. I even got some edited video content back up. Couple of experiments with editing. Trying to think which one was there's one. Oh, shut up. Stop making constant noise. There was one of the videos that I uploaded for taste tests that was, I think it was one of the cereal ones. It must have been like the Elf cereal, where it ran long, and in the middle of it was me making a mess. And I clipped that out using YouTube's editor. When you post a video, you can trim out a section in the middle and sort of splice that back together. So I used that. Uploading the video was quick. Editing the video takes a little bit to learn to do using YouTube's editor. Once you figure that out, it takes forever for the changes to be applied to what you made. And then yesterday, or I guess it was today's video, was the candy cane spoons. I did an edit on that. I had to reinstall HitFilm Express because apparently, I don't know if it was in the power outage or sometime before that, the HitFilm file that I had is registered to a different system, and the sign-in features that I had set up didn't work anymore. So I had to uninstall, reinstall, and reset my account through HitFilm just to use it. And the thing that drove me batty was attempts to do it the first time. The software was glitching so that trying to sign into your account, every time you tried to click on it, the sign-in feature would just disappear. And so you'd go, all right, so I guess I'll work on my file. And every time you try to click on the file, the sign-in thing would pop up. And as soon as you clicked on it to sign into it, it would disappear again. And it was just like, I'm not fighting this thing all night long just to get this. I finished my file. It took I think it probably took me half an hour to 45 minutes to edit the file. And then I set it to export the file, and it took like 40 to 50 minutes to export the file. And I went off to work. I got back from work, and the information said that it had finished exporting the file, but you could see the icon had plastered right across the middle of the whole video, this watermark saying this is made with a demo of the software. I'm like, are you kidding me? I tried to go watch the video, and it wouldn't open the file format that it saved it in. And I'm like, this is useless. I switched over, tried to load it into DaVinci. DaVinci Resolve is another free-to-use video editing software, and it broke. That software just broke. So I couldn't get it to edit my video pieces at all. And then I couldn't get it to even open. It kept telling me that pieces of it weren't where it needed them to be. And I was just like, I can't fight with any of this. So I just uninstalled all my video software, reinstalled my video editing software, reset up the accounts. And by the time that was done, I was like, it's too late to do any of the updates I need to update. So the last, 48, 44, like 50 some odd hours has just been one continuous strain in the butt all the way through. And I was just like, wow, you made that way harder than it needed to be, all because power went out for probably a little, it was actually 2 days, but I went to work in a snowstorm, was at work when the power went out, took down my computer and everything in my surge protector, protected it from fluctuating power, but it messed with a lot of things. And then all through the next day, most of that day, we had no power. And we have a generator that we kicked on partway through that day. But when that generator was running, it wouldn't power the internet connection. And the current coming in, I'm pretty sure if I didn't have that surge protector in the middle of it, would have wrecked this computer. So we got lucky on that score. But in the meantime, it meant that all my connections for the software I need to edit video went bonkers. I had to keep my computer off all day, partially unplugged, and then plug it all back in and try to set it all back up the next day, go to bed, go back to work. It was an adventure. But theoretically, we're done with that, at least until Saturday when we have the next big storm of precipitation we're supposed to get, I guess. We'll see how that goes. In the meantime, I will try to do uploads each day. I will definitely be here on Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday when we have power. And then I will try, like I had preset some of my taste test videos to auto go up. So that seems to have worked without interruption. Knock on Formica. But theoretically, that system's in place so that I should be able to keep putting those videos up one a day. I don't know what time frame they're on. I didn't set the times to be the same. I literally just chunked them together, and theoretically they'll launch at the same time. But they probably won't launch at the same time because I don't set it right. I could probably look into doing that better, but for the meantime, as long as I can get something out each day, that's the goal. In the meantime, however, I have had some great amusement today exploring something I'd forgotten about. So I was trying to remember something I talked with somebody about years ago as a creative project. And I did a search on my Facebook posts. So I actually went through my history. You go over to your own Facebook page, and at the top of it, there should be a magnifying glass. I think you can do it for other people's Facebook profiles. You go to the top of their profile, there should be a magnifying glass. Click that, and then you can enter terms that you can search their history for files or discussions or posts or whatever. And I pulled up a couple of old discussions. One of them was a discussion of a movie. So one of my friends said, I want to just see a movie with this cast: Christopher Walken, John Malkovich, Gary Oldman, Kevin Spacey, and Alan Cummings. And I mean, Kevin Spacey's kind of on a blacklist these days because of his conduct. But for the most part, he says, my friend when he posted this said, I have no idea what it would be about, but I would think it would be equal parts crazy and awesome. And I had seen his post, and I said, how about a story about a therapy group whose counselor just got screwed in a nasty divorce, and suddenly the one reality check capable person in the whole group loses his grip. They all become enablers to each other's pathos, and through their experiences gain a sort of catharsis that, while not normalizing them, allows them to reconcile their identity and impulses to become healthier people, but not necessarily good people. And he's like, that's the most amazing idea ever. And I went, it sounds like a fun project. And around that time, I was out traveling the country, so I didn't have time to work on it. And then I just shelved it, just got forgotten in the history of my Facebook posts. And then I just sort of like one day I remembered, yeah, he said something about a movie script, and I proposed an idea. I should look that back up. And so I dug it up, and I hashed it over to him through message and said, are there things we'd change now off of this idea? And we replaced Kevin Spacey with another actor of equal caliber, if not better. And so I think that might be one of those projects that I get back to this coming year. And I don't imagine we'll ever make this movie, but I can always make this script, and I can post the premise, the proposal of the movie, and my comments about it, basically my log line and all that kind of stuff, on like Twitter or something like that, and tag the actors for a giggle just to see what they think about it. And I could potentially include a link of just posting the script up on the web somewhere, or the first page, or the opening act, and just leave it like that. And if anybody's interested in getting the whole thing, even if it's just like one of these actors who would sit down and read lines, that would be hilariously funny. I don't think we'll ever get that far, but it would be worth doing if I could get the script done right. So that was one of the things I was revisiting as I was doing this. But at the same time, having done this today, there was also a memory of talking about a dream I had on Facebook that involved some of my friends, and thinking what a weird dream it was. And some of my friends who were in the dream commented about the dream. That's all I really remember. I remembered some of the details about the dream. So I tried to do a search for aspects of the dream, and certain words that I used in the search just weren't popping up. And maybe it's because I spelled them differently, or like one of the things I said was Icelandic death metal as a music genre. Now, I typed in Icelandic, and I don't know if I spelled it wrong the first time or what. I put in death metal, and nothing came up as a search result. So I don't know why, but Facebook wasn't doing the return on my search results. So I wasn't getting what I wanted off of it. And then I just typed in, what was the term I used for the search? One of the search terms I used actually brought up, I remember now. I typed in, I think it was either dream or weird dream, into my search history for my posts. And there were a few stragglers where it was the American dream that was referred to or something like that. But by far, I got a list of a bunch of posts that I have made over the last decade, almost decade, on Facebook. And those posts were about weird dreams that I had. And it has been an amazingly fun romp to revisit those. I found, and I copied a bunch of them off of there, and I have them in a file now. I mean, the most mundane one I have is, had a dream that the oldest cat my mom ever had was still alive, and that she had come into the house where she had continued to get smarter as she got older, until she was reading books to other cats when everybody else left the house. I caught her doing it and was about to take out my phone to record it when my alarm woke me up. What? That was my dream, apparently. I do not remember that dream, but it is definitely amusing. But there were at least 7 other dreams that I recorded and posted to Facebook. And it was so much fun to revisit those weird dreams. Some of them, I really genuinely don't remember the dream, but the posting of it is descriptive enough that it's an interesting presentation. So one of them was just before I forget it. Last night I had a dream. There were green kiwi birds hiding in small herb gardens that I've planted, but which looked dead as winter was coming in. But when I say they were hiding, I mean like suspicious spy sneaking around with shifty eyes, hiding behind twigs that are too thin to hide it. And eventually, I took my lunchbox and slammed it down on him and pulled it up off the tiles. I guess there are tiles under the herb garden. And he was stuck to the box but seemed unhurt. I poked him and my finger was stuck to him like super glue, but I suddenly realized he wasn't a real green kiwi bird. He was a gummy candy version of a kiwi bird. And then I woke up. That was the dream. That is like the movie Airplane done as a weird dream. Like, if I shot these as videos, if I just made an animation or puppets or whatever and enacted these scenes, they would be some of the most trippy, weird stuff in existence. And it would be kind of fun, honestly. One of them somewhat political from years ago. One of them ends with a comment, "Oh, and Kevin Bacon makes great cookies." What? What is the greater context of that statement? And then there was one where it's like, if my dreams are anything to go by, I should not be allowed to pilot a flying car. That's just the only comment I have. I have no context for where that came from. I have no idea what happened. But a couple of them are definitely fun. I would love to get a group of people together for this next one. One of last night's dreams. A group of Vikings loudly celebrating the battle to come in the morning by chugging mead and generally being Vikings. The next morning, on the hilltop, "Get ready for," stops yelling as half of them try to hold their skulls together, whispers, "Get ready for battle. We will show them what real Vikings look like." And then Grr whispers, "Grr." Stops mid-whisper, battle roar, to a wave of dry heaves. And they start running at the other force, but a few steps in have to stop, hands on knees, heaving and wheezing. They pull themselves together enough to speed walk to meet the enemy force of equally hungover forces. They might have been Scotsmen. And the clang of the first set of weapons against each other sends both sides reeling back, clutching their ears and throbbing skulls. Somebody throws up. They pick up again gently, swinging weapons at each other, wincing at even the quietest clunks of slow-moving weapon, weak battle. Somebody slips in the barf that somebody left on the ground before. And that's End story. And honestly, if I could get a group of weirdos together to do this battle scene and the prearranged like drinking festivities from the night before for both armies, that would just be so much fun to do. And then one that's a little less silly, but still weird, is walking along the side of the road in a wooded area. I encounter a dirt road, which as I follow it leads to some glass doors in the side of a hill. Further up the path is a more sturdy metal door with a porthole in it. And that addendum seems to be a dead end because it says, wandering in, it looks like a standard office, open space situation with a bunch of empty desks and one or two with people at them talking with other people sitting in chairs. One of the desk sitters waves me over, and I'm hesitant because I don't know this place, these people, or what's happening here. I just discovered this by accident. The person at the desk hands me a multi-page test to do with questions like size 33, which I realize is the letter size they want me to write in response to the question. And more strange questions make me realize that I could do this much faster on a computer, but even then, the questions seem weird. Really, you think? Then it hits me. This is one of those. Read the whole thing to the end and discover that you only have to do questions 3, 5, and 14, and the instructions at the end tell you to skip the rest. Curious, I continue to do half the test anyway. When one of the desk people catches on that I'm doing half the test, even though I know I don't have to, they pull me aside and call me out on it. I explain that I already know I don't have to do most of them. And when asked why I'm doing them then, I tell them that 1, it's really kind of fun, and 2, the types of things those in authority will see if they can get people to do, even if they don't have to, tells you a lot about the people who created the test. This is me dreaming. I'm not, like, that's how I dream sometimes. Looking surprised, they move me to another room and say I should wait for others for the next part. I said, let me guess. You give us each a short story about a character and their behavior, and then have each of us decide the best course of action going forward and work out any disagreement about what we think we should do next. The hitch being that while we each have basically the same story, an important detail will be changed in about half of the stories given out, and nobody will know, allowing everybody to be split on the best course of action and confrontational about how the other side could be so wrong. The person was startled for a second and then scowls a bit before telling me to wait here, and they will bring somebody to talk to me about joining the organization. There's sort of a flicker of a brief sense of an organization before I wake up. Like, that is one of the trippiest dream ideas I have ever heard. And frankly, I kind of remember little snippets of this dream. And this has got to be at least 6 years ago. But, oh man, like that, I don't even know, like, if that's the intro to a weird Men in Black style movie premise, I could get behind that. If that's the intro, I would totally get behind that. I don't know how to build the rest of the story off of that, but if that's the intro to something, I'm there for the rest of that movie. Oh, God. And then there are other weird ones. I noticed last night's dream. I noticed a dimple on the side of my thumb at the tip. And as time passed, it grew and grew until it was all the way through the other side. Gradually, it seemed to get bigger and bigger, so that I wondered if I put a lens in either end of it, I could use it like a built-in telescope. But when I started putting the first lens, it magnified a microscopic little man, making a workshop inside the tunnel in my thumb. The little person and everything in the workshop were all completely pale butter yellow in color. And he didn't seem to realize I existed. That was the dream. That was the whole thing. Again, I'm just I'm hit by the idea, like, as an animation or a puppet show, or maybe even just acted out in some weird, interesting way. That would be fun. I mean, I don't even have to animate that. If I could just do a couple of still image shots of that, that would be totally worth doing a narrated still image story on YouTube or something. But I just had so much fun playing with this stuff. Like, I've had some real doozy of weird dreams over the years. And one of the things this tells me right now is I need to get back into writing down my dreams, because, man, they are weird, but they are fun weird. I have very few dreams that are horrific. I've had a few over the years, but not a lot. I think I can think of 3 nightmares that I had since I was 7 years old. And so, like, none of them are going to be particularly dark or gruesome or horrifying in any way. Well, for me anyway. I will admit, I've had dreams where I was being chased by velociraptors up a spiral hallway with a well of light down the middle of it. But at no point was that a scary dream for me. It was an action adventure story as far as I was concerned. It wasn't horrifying or fear-inducing. So, I mean, I don't know. It's just like, I don't know that I can make a whole segment just about remaking my own dreams, but it'd be fun to share some of them. How many do I have here? That's an interesting idea. If I had, like, say 12 of them, I could do one per month for a year. And meanwhile, I can work better at trying to remember my current dreams and see if I can generate a few more. The Vikings, the secret organization, the guy in the thumb. I don't understand enough about the Kevin Bacon makes great cookies to be able to use that in any functional way. The political one. Oh, the dandelion tree growing out of my paper cut. That's 5. The cat, 6. I still have about 7 or 8. It's not bad, but I could work with that. I think I had a couple others. And I have a few others I can remember from when I was much younger that I could use. I could probably fill out a year with a video per month about my dreams. I don't know that I will do that, because to animate them or to make a short movie or a puppet show about them, that's a production. That's a video production that would take time. And I don't know that I have the ability to do that each month for a year. But I'd like to do a few of them at least. and I got brainstorming about my different types of music. So I was basically working on the idea of this script for my friend's movie proposal. I started to come up with the idea for some of the music albums that we could do for March, in March to Your Own Tune. And then the dream ideas as potential stories or animations to do, and maybe even as a script for a movie or something like that, for Script Frenzy. Well, I think Script Frenzy is going to be writing the script to my friend's movie idea. And then I could potentially do another script or two off of some of my dream ideas. I don't know. Some of them could be done as graphic novel stuff. I could storyboard out some of that stuff. I think I mentioned last time, I can't remember the last time I was on here exactly what we talked about. But I do seem to recall, I might have mentioned to you before, the difference between Kuma Kuma Manga DLC pack and the Kamipo. And I feel like at this point, I might as well just go ahead and hop on that board. Even if I use just the Kuma Kuma comic editor as a means of storyboarding out graphic novels, animations, and scripts for visual media, I think that's a reasonable thing I could potentially use it for. And I see a fair amount of value in that possibility. So I'm going to probably play with doing that. I mean, it's only $10, and that's a pretty good idea of what I can do with storyboarding setups. I mean, I'll probably end up just building a cast of generic characters, like red, blue, green, yellow, basic unclothed figures, so that I can post their poses, the actions they're doing, and maybe expressions, and use those to detail what characters are doing and in what way, where they're positioned in the scene relative to one another, and then use those as a storyboard to kind of illustrate how the scenes work. Would I gradually do my own work on that? It's a lot of work as an individual to play all the roles in something like that. But I mean, it depends on the work. There are some works I could do where the cast of characters is one or maybe even two, and they're both people I can play. Then I might be able to shoot that myself on a chroma key screen like this, use special effects to alter them, especially if there's not a lot of action sequences or distance or widescreen shots used in it. If it's all close up or even from the waist up character piece, then I could do a lot with that. And if I can use some of the techniques that you can use in some of the video editing software out there to do a like split screen, so that you can have the character apparently have cloned themselves. There are a couple of tutorials on how to do tricks like that, where you can make it look like there are two of a person and then five of them. Somebody did a spoof of, I think it was Multiplicity, was the movie where Michael Keaton? No. Who was the first Batman movie character? Well, not the first Batman, but the 80s Batman, not Val Kilmer, not George Clooney, the one before them. Was it Michael Keaton? Yes, it was Michael Keaton. So he did a movie called Multiplicity, where he essentially cloned himself, and there were 3 or 4 of them. And he would interact with himself in multiple shots. Now, some of those things can be done very similar to what they did in the old Parent Trap movies, where it's the same actress playing both roles. And when they're not on screen together, she could be either of the characters. But occasionally they're put on screen together, and that's achieved by having sort of like a way to split the screen, have a character on each screen, and just splicing those two screens together. That's one of the ways they did this. And I could do things like that. But when you get to the point where you have characters interacting where one hands something to somebody else, you have to start to get creative in your techniques. And occasionally, if one of them hits the other, there's no getting around the fact that you're going to have two people on set, one to be the hitter and one to be the hitee. You can do a special effect of somebody doing this, but you have to cut the arm off at a certain point, and then the other person has to be standing in the next scene. If I'm moving me over to be the one slapping me, I then have to have my arm reach out and connect with something, because you can see that connection to an object that you hit through the rest of the limb. You can cut off that limb and connect it to the other one, but if you're not moving at the right speed, frame, and whatever, that's going to look like your arm is noodle, because it'll bend in weird ways that it shouldn't be able to bend. And so, it gets harder to do that. Whereas if you just literally had somebody in a green suit slap me in the face with an arm that stops being green here, and then have me standing on the other side going through the motions of a slap and greening out my hand and then greening out the rest of the screen there, I could cut it all together bright. Even that's tricky. Theoretically, I could set up a little bit of some of those stage performance tricks where somebody puts their arm behind a barrier and chokes themselves, and it's all like a gag, and you pull that arm back behind the barrier. Do a lot of tricks, but you have to set the frame right, because you don't want to see this arm going behind. It's just a lot of tricks. I could have fun with it, but where was I going? If I want to do movies where I could pull some of that off and be the only actors, that gets significantly easier, because half the problem with shooting movies and whatnot is the scheduling, getting everybody together who needs to be together for a given scene. If you are the cast, the crew, the director, the writer, it gets significantly easier to just get yourself together for the time. It's also going to take much longer if you're doing all those roles. But it is what it is. I may play around with doing some of that stuff, building scripts in Kuma Kuma comic editor, manga editor, as storyboarding, to see if I can get a feel for how scenes could flow. But that might be more along the lines of as a way to get, or I could hire some comic artists, or get some people together for a movie together. And use those for storyboarding those as well. I just had the thought that if I did the Viking Scotsman battle short, and I was all of the Vikings doing various beards and helmets and hairs and armor and weapons, if I was all of them, the Scotsmen and the Vikings, that could be amazingly funny to do. It would be, you'd basically have to shoot the same scene like 30 times. It'd be a pain in the butt, but it could be funny as all get out. I could totally see that being hilarious. Oh, Now, see, that's like now I want to pull up a storyboarder and see if I could pull it off. See if I could figure out how to make that work. God, can you imagine doing that? Just someday see if you can get somebody to give you a field to run across and literally set up a camera, run across the field. Well, actually, no. You're going to do like a couple of running steps, stop, dry heave, pull yourself together, and like mince run carefully across the screen. And then you go change your costume and do it 15, 30 more times, and then layer the images together to make it look like a group of people running into battle. Oh, God, that would be so funny. Each running scene would probably be about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe even half an hour to set up. So, that's a couple days worth of work right there. Just to shoot it. Then to edit it all together is probably another week or so. But that could be super funny. That could be super, super funny to do. Ooh, we're almost at 45 minutes. I should probably get going. I got a few things I want to do before bed tonight, and I got work for like the next 2 weeks solid. So I got to squeeze in some creative time while I got it. I thank you for your patience, though. I am sorry that life keeps trying to make this so that I can't do what I need to do these, but I will do as best I can. I can't guarantee if we're going to have another ice storm or snowstorm like we just had that knocked literally hundreds of people out of the power system for more than a day. Like, it wasn't that big a snowstorm. It really shouldn't have been as bad as it was, and we've had power outages where I'm living before, but they're super rare, and they're not usually much longer than half an hour, 45 minutes. This area tends to be really well tended because we're close to several government areas. Government offices are on the same power circuit as we are, so they're not likely to leave them dead in the water for multiple days. But I get the distinct feeling that this year they were just not prepared for the level of problems that happened because of this storm. I didn't think it was that bad a storm. We didn't get a lot of snow. It was heavier, wet snow. And I imagine there are a fair number of people who just have no experience with that kind of thing. The interior of the house got down below 50 degrees. And with the power off for close to 20 hours, anything in the refrigerator would spoil if you were stupid enough to just do that. But, I mean, come on. You're in New England. The thing that caused the power outage was a winter storm. If you wanted to, you could take an empty grocery bag or something like that, put your food in it, and hang it out the window of the second story of a building into the cold winter air where it's below 34 degrees Fahrenheit, and you essentially have a refrigerator right outside your window. It's not super hard. But somehow, not only do people forget how to drive in this winter stuff, they forget the basics of how to survive. Layer up your clothes, use some fleece blankets to cover yourself up. Freezers are good for 24 to 48 hours, depending on how full they were. Refrigerators are good for about 6 to 8 hours, depending on the material inside the refrigerator. And after that, outside works. You need to cook something and you can't use your electric stove. Do you have a barbecue grill outside? Yeah? Okay, you can cook stuff. You're good. You're good. Your world is not that difficult to figure out. But somehow, we've all forgotten how to do that. I, on the other hand, did quite well. The hard part was getting everything back up and running when we got the power again. That's why everything crashes and falls apart for computers for me. I don't know. But that's behind me. Thanks for joining me for tonight. Barring acts of weather and nature, I will return on Thursday night. And I will try to not just do a taste test update for tomorrow, but also another update. We'll see how that goes. Until then, take care. Have a good night. Stay warm, stay healthy. Do, 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 do.